Hello guys, I wanted to make a video discussing a very long-standing topic on the origin of haplogroup I1. Really, I don't necessarily feel as if people are being honest or very up to date with the new information coming out on the haplogroup I-M253 and where it would have originated from, where its ancestor would have been from. I personally think there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of very dishonest ways of really talking about this topic, a lot of ill-informed ways of really talking about it too. Because what you can really see with the haplogroup I1 is that based off like very early studies done in like 2007 to 2006, the early 2000s basically, we basically came to a conclusion that the archaeogenetic fields came to a conclusion that it more or less never really existed during the Mesolithic, it went extinct somewhere in the Paleolithic basically. It didn't really exist as a really big. It pretty much went extinct basically, almost extinct. But I think as time progressed and we had more information in the later 2000s, early 2010s, 15. I think this is kind of slowly being shown that that's not true. In actuality, that I1 was probably very similar to the distribution of I2, basically. The distribution of I2 and I1 are very fucking similar. And what we basically had there was just a lack of, very small samples at the time. Because as of recent, we're figuring out that we have I1 in the Mesolithic from Azelian, SF11, even as far, I'm not sure about this one, but there's one in France as well. There's also another guy in Hungary who's an LBK farmer of I1. This is the reason why I mention I2 or I1b is that I1b is a very similar distribution to I1 basically, because I2 is basically every fucking where in Mesolithic Europe, straight into Paleolithic and into the Neolithic, the late Neolithic and the middle Neolithic. So I think what we're slowly kind of seeing now is that, we're kind of wrong. We were kind of wrong about this, and I1 was probably had a very similar distribution rate amongst a large part of Europe, just like I do, from what we can see now at least. I think a large part of the issue comes from that people are not really up to speed with the topics nowadays, and they tend to be basically with the resurgence of the Indo-European topic, right? With these David Reich books, these Indo-European videos from Survive the Jive, it really has kind of brought this topic back to life, I think. And I think people are kind of not so on the loop when it comes down to these things. But I think my video will kind of give you some new insight on that. So I don't think you can just drop this idea I1 never really existed in Mesolithic, because we clearly do have samples that are actually in the Mesolithic that are I1, pre-I1, to be more specific actually. And some in Neolithic farmers as well. Crazy. What is actually interesting now, what I'm about to say, because I don't think a lot of people know this, but I think it is kind of common information. We have at least three I1 samples that are heavily Western steppe here, which are around I think one of them is Rise 179, who was Nordic Bronze Age elite. There is Rise 175, which I think is literally just just before before an Iron Bronze Age. So it was with whatever bell beaker it was probably more or less just like it came with the bell beakers. And basically, with R1B, you want to 6 people from what information, from what I can see from this from these current papers, and the timeline in which it would have shown up. So it basically came with the bell beaker group, more or less, from what I can see. That's what I can get from the information and the papers I've read, which I'll probably link in the description. But to basically put it a bit more simply, I think there's a lot of misinformation, outdated information on forums in general online about this topic, and I see some people trying to keep discussions or debates ongoing just for the sake of having a debate, and not just ending the topic that I1 is just I1 is quite literally just more or less a step cut. I think the issue is that people just don't want to admit this, because I think a large part of it comes from an entertainment aspect of having debates. I know it sounds crazy, but yes, people do argue for the sake of arguing and not actually just wanting to be a peace sometimes, I guess. But from what I can see, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of outdated information that has been more or less proven to be incorrect. The more new studies have really surfaced up from around 2019, 2018 up into the 2020s. New information has come out and disproved most of these older ideas about I1. So what I can say is that